All right, what's going on? Shortened intro tonight. Can you hear me okay? Yep, got audio. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. It's sorry, it's been 2 weeks. Horrible me. We talked about this. I need to just make sure I do this every week. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Race events are starting to pick up. It's kind of been a little bit busier for us here at RealTuners. Sounds like the other guys have had a lot of stuff going on. We had Sweet 16 happen here recently. A whole bunch of stuff to talk about tonight, plus a couple of suggested listener topics that we picked out ourselves and thought would make for a interesting discussion. So anyway, buckle up, sit back, relax. If you're wrenching on your project, cool, turn it up, pick out a drink, and chill out and hang out with us. Guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Yep, I got you.
I'm guessing that's a yes.
I'm hearing no video on YouTube.
It was delayed. It
yeah,
looks
it's super
like
delayed. Don't worry, it's like 30 or 90 seconds behind or something. They're just getting intro.
Well, no, even you're sitting there talking. It was a black screen for about a minute while you were talking. It didn't show up till you asked us if we could hear you.
That might have been real because I screwed up the intro somehow, and I was like, oh, just play the regular going out music, Jason. And I dropped that on producer guy like 10 minutes before we went live. That's what I was doing when you guys were talking. And so I'm glad he's doing this remotely. It's kind of cool. He logs into our server that has the mixer and all that stuff, but he's not here to hit me over the face with a pipe.
I was going to say he can't slap you around.
No, that's the reason I'm
last minute change.
But yeah, thumbs up to Jason in the background for getting it done. Okay, well, let's see, man. I'm gonna pull up the chats here. YouTube guys. Jerry, what's going on? Sean. Kenny Howard's in here, right on. And it's almost, the sun just went down where I'm at in the Midwest Central Time Zone. Sun just went down. So it's nice. It's kind of nice this time of year now with the whole time zones thing, or the daylight savings time thing, not an issue anymore. You get some daylight at the end of your workday.
Yeah, it's nice here.
Right? Of course. Bill's got that background thing perfected.
He does. Bill has
like,
the background.
You guys' background game
out.
is on point. That's hilarious. So
this is just one of the Zoom default videos that's in the back, by the way.
But you've got some kind of lighting thing going on there.
Oh yeah, I got the lighting and all that crap, but yeah.
I watched the how to do lighting for your Twitch stream video and got the LEDs in the back. That's about it here, and it's light over here. So who's rage typing? Oh, it's going to be Barnhill. If there's rage typing going on,
I swear it wasn't me this time. I was not typing anything.
We have turned him into a monster.
I like this keyboard. I apparently can't use it anymore.
It's so funny. He was so timid when we started. Now you guys ought to hear him. One of these days we'll get like one of those rants. Did you ever watch the Netflix show called Winnebago Man?
No.
If someone ever gets a hold of recordings of before and after of RealTuners podcasts, I don't think we'd be in trouble, but it'd be very entertaining at times. So that being said, hey, wouldn't it help if I pulled up my notes here? So some of the questions I saw on some of the posts in the fan page, like a week ago, what did they say? Oh, how to pick a tuner. And I added to that, I said, how to pick a tuner on social media, or how to pick a tuner using social media. Or if you like the rest of us.
Is that a contradiction in terms?
Well,
yes, it is.
If you're doing it entirely off social media, you're already doing it wrong.
Well, let me say here's where my head was at on that. It was like, okay, every one of us here, even us asking that question, are just absolutely, I mean, now there's so much content online. It is literally like taking a drink out of a fire hydrant. So, and some of that content is great. Some of it is not great. And a lot of it in between. And so I thought about, there are guys out there that are picking their tuners based on what they're seeing on, online, on social media. So it's probably a good discussion to have, I thought, anyway.
You mean like he who posts the most must be the best?
Well, it lets us present ourselves in the own image that we want. So it's kind of like at work when there's a birthday cake and everybody's supposed to take one piece and pass it along or whatever. But like some of the dudes have a habit of just like taking the whole cake when it's in turn in line or whatever, and they kind of overrepresent their skill sets. Some of them underrepresent, don't get on Facebook at all, which is kind of interesting. Some of the most popular ones out there have almost no social media presence.
Put Steve Petty as the number one for that right there.
Yeah, and Jay, we've had him on the show before. He finally got a Facebook account after he got on the show, but it's only for his like kids soccer matches and stuff.
Yes.
You know, I can see he checks in occasionally to the race stuff, but he is not that's just not his thing. It doesn't need to be, he doesn't, I guess if I didn't need it, I probably wouldn't be on here either. It's how we market our business. We offer a whole lot of online.
I think
stuff.
the biggest thing I've always told guys is the louder the guy's beating his chest and claiming he's the best or whatever, usually that's the more red flags. Yeah. Everyone, and we've all had this conversation. I know we've all said it. The number of times that one of us is like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, but then we go and figure it all out. And there's a bunch of guys, there's a bunch of good tuners about it, but the biggest thing, like what I've always, when wiring it comes up a lot, I talk to a lot of guys, and the first thing they ask, I send them a list of questions like, holy shit, no one's done this before. I was like, how the fuck do you wire a car without asking these questions? So there's a certain things of, how they work with you. If you just send them, hey, I've got an LS, I need it tuned. Can you do that? And it's like, oh, absolutely, let's schedule something, whatever, blah, blah. There should be a couple questions going back and forth, and how they ask those questions and what they're trying to do to make sure your setup is right says a lot. Asking what injectors you're using and stuff like that to make sure, one, it's a setup they trust, and two, that they have an idea what they need to do. I guess I've said this a lot. I've never written down a good list of what kind of questions should your tuner be asking you. I don't know if it's probably, injectors are a big one for, I think, all of us here.
What parts are in the car? Yeah. Only.
Yeah. Have you been vaccinated?
Hey, James just joined in. And that's good questions for him. James is kind of a checklist guy.
What injectors?
Or better yet, what injectors doesn't it have, please?
Right.
But
yeah, Kenny Howard says what fuel pump, making sure that your mechanical setup isn't going to be a limitation.
This might be somewhat of you might call me an asshole. So my first question always is, hey, first of all, if we're going to do any kind of remote, I require everything until tune day to be in writing, be a text message, Facebook Messenger, whatever. There's a reason for that, because when we're trying to run the car and it don't run worth a crap, and you say, hey, or I say, hey, this doesn't seem right. What's going on? Oh, it's lean. Well, you told me you have Bosch 210s in the car. Oh, well, I really have these 1600s. Well, here's where you wrote it down. I have it in writing from you. But I will typically ask a question up front. I will just ask for a quick write-up of the car. And if your first answer to me is Turbo LS, Daniel Lembo just asked my remote tuner. That's me. Just ask how my internet is where he is, because that's how it goes. But if your answer is Turbo LS, then I'm probably going to have to ask you way more questions, and it's probably gonna be a way longer process than if I ask you for a short write-up on your car and it's stock bottom end 5.3 with a VS 88103 and these injectors, and you give me a full list of something to work with, then I know I'm dealing with somebody that this is going to be an easier process. Let's just put it that way. eBay injectors, Jesus Christ.
I was going to back up and say, one of the first things, if you're checking out a tuner, you're the end user. One of the things I had on my list in response to that was you need to be able to identify satisfied customers, a group of satisfied customers of theirs, whose performance you can verify and decide if that's where you want to be, because that's basically what his core group of guys and some people that he's taking care of are doing, performance wise. That's kind of going to where you end up regardless. Right? Don't expect a guy who's really good at building true street type cars, that can run on the street for a long time or whatever, to be, to build a tube chassis, everything, full out pro mod car and know what he's doing with that. So you want to have like someone that's got verifiable experience in a similar category or performance level that you want to be at. They also need to have documented proof of insurance experience. My bad. They need to have documented proof of experience. No, none of this. I've been doing it 20 years on thousands of cars, but no like YouTube videos or Facebook posts. Like, a lot of these guys, I'm like, man, can you validate what, is there like 1 or 2 cars or 10 or 50? I mean, I suck at taking videos and all that stuff as far as knowing how to use a camera and doing quality and framing everything. But I at least did shitty documented just, a little bit of everything we ever worked on. I mean, I looked at my own stuff and the earliest stuff I could find was like 2003 and 4-ish, like little handheld camera stuff. But the first time I touched a standalone, I think was like 98 or 99. So not that long ago. It seems like yesterday. But anyway, you got to be able to validate some of the things these guys are saying, because that's some of them are really, really good sellers and kind of talk themselves up or whatever, like they've been doing this forever. And it's you need to kind of just be able to see some of that experience. It's easy to find the right guys if you use just those couple of basics there. Anyway, that's kind of what I've used when I recommend a tuner. Did I tell you guys my JP story? Is he somebody have to tag JP?
Are we starting a fight, or is this
like we're notorious for not getting along, me and him, on the internet for a couple of years? It's been like 3 or 4 years ago, right? And then we both worked on a customer's car together and ended up at the track together supporting the same car. And it was funny. I had a good chat. When you meet the guy in real person, I was immediately I was like, oh man, I'm a dick on the internet. I apologize, whatever. But obviously he's got a fucking fleet of customers that are happy down there that are hauling ass. He goes to the track like Perduto does. He does a lot of good track tuning and stuff. And he's pretty good at a broad range of different things there. And just down to earth guy. Like, by the end of the day, I was like, if I had a project, I would let this guy tune my stuff. I thought he was pretty cool. So anyway, just it's interesting. You might, if you get a chance to observe those people in person, don't make your decisions off of somebody based on just what you see on the internet, because generally all these car guys are pretty cool people.
Someone posted, I was told a good tuner is an honest tuner that tells you good or bad and will steer you in a direction that will benefit you in the long run and cost effective on all parts. And I'm gonna expound on that one bit, and one that's willing to say, I don't know.
That sounds like a monk instead of the typical tuner.
Well, yeah, but you can ask how many people, and Scott will tell you how many times, dude, I'm in a hole I can't get myself out of, and I will say, let me message Scott or message this group real fast and get an answer, because I'll tell you when I don't know. I maybe I'm an idiot, but I'll tell you when I don't know, and I'll ask this very group of guys you're watching here right now, or I'll message Scott directly, and Scott's bailed me out of more jams than I care to even admit to. Let's be honest. But that's part of that deal. Is not, I don't want to blow up your shit. I'd rather ask a question than blow your car up.
Yeah, I'd rather ask a question, wait a day. Yes. And that's it. And I'm not gonna lie, it's like, hey, look, like, I've got a theory. Here's that. I don't know if they're right. That's what we went through today with those injectors, and I wound up stealing the injectors from my personal car to prove that, hey, yeah, this is what's going on.
Where's your buddy William Perduto? Sorry. Okay, oops.
He's talking shit on it.
Oh, I said that live. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
These injectors are fine. It's your bench.
Oh God.
It's your flow bench.
Dude, if I get told that...
No, you didn't show your hand on the knob, man.
Bro,
yeah.
There's an injector flow bench in William Tetro's, the garage that we use, okay, at his house. If I get told one more time, well, you guys can't flow snake eaters or injectors on there, that bitch flows 575 atomizers. If I can flow 575s, I don't want to hear anything about your 1500s or whatever that you supposedly take so much power to run.
My shit's got a HowTech controlling it now, so they can't say shit.
They ain't gonna say nothing. It's all your responsibility. That's good. How's that next? Are you running the Nexus yet, James?
No, not yet. Well, I'm not running anything right now. The car's, still down, with the chassis updates and motor updates, turbo updates, yada yada yada. But
are you getting ready to do a Nexus?
I haven't got that far yet. I've still got the whole complete control system and stuff that come out of the car. So it's like, do I really want to invest that much to, swap something that's already working? So
that's the hard part.
More than likely, I'll probably end up with it just so I can, work bugs out and, figure it out also.
James, I don't know if anyone has told you this, but it's like, is it 9:15 or 8:15 where you are?
8:15.
James, it's 8. It's
No.
8.
It's 9:15 here. I'm Eastern time.
Okay.
Yeah, Kentucky's split, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
Even at that, James, what are you doing in the house? Like, you're 3 hours early from going into the house. I know you're.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen James not in his garage.
You caught me at dinner. Actually, I'm actually getting ready to go back out and get in a car.
I thought it was maybe from having that 9 to 5 day job thing now.
Well, it's that and working after. So I got 2 jobs now.
Never ends. It never ends.
Same boat.
It's actually kind of nice when you're doing that because of the tuning job. You can pick who you can kind of pick and choose some customers. I was just talking to Kenny Howard about that too. I was saying a lot of my business this season is repeat customers and shops that are doing maybe a shop gets a build done every 4 or 6 weeks. That's a lot of the work right now. But then the other stuff, I mean, as far as the hobby side goes, like I said, I'm working on just a couple of cars, that turbine deal, which some of the guys were asking, what was the turbine thing? What was happening there? We were scheduled for April 18th to be on the dyno we got 4-day window. It's starting the 18th. So that's when we're going to go up there and hopefully have the final revisions of our software. My goal is when that is done, we'll basically, I'll draw up the schematics, how I've got everything wired and patched in. And he'll design me a PCB and I'll have that built. Then we'll assemble it here. It'll be something simple like a through-hole deal, but you'll drop in an Arduino Mega 2560 into this board that he builds, and it'll have the harness and there'll be some 24-volt relays and stuff inside the box that will plug into the existing harness that we have. Which, huge thanks to Barnhill and Brad Nagel, both identified for me the connectors, the bulkhead connectors, the pins, the right pins to use, everything I needed to make, the ECU side of the harness for that thing. So it turned out pretty cool. I think I showed pictures of my Harbor Freight yellow case or whatever, the clone Pelican case that I turned into an ECU for turbines. We're going to miniaturize that, and it should be pretty cool. Little aluminum extruded housing thing. So anyway, that's the update on that. Now back to whatever we were talking about before I rambled away from the topic.
I have a follow-up question on how to pick a tuner.
Yeah.
Which is, and this happens inevitably. So you're either online doing the remote for the first time, or if you spent the big coin or was just lucky and they're there in person with you. How do you know now that they're in front of you virtually or in person, how do you know that they actually know what the hell they're doing? What are 5 things or 3 things that'll tell you that, oh, this is good, this is cool, or run away, oh, sorry, my mommy's calling, we can't do this today?
Do you remember and you probably won't, my first night on the podcast, you asked me a question to end the show, and what answer I gave you? It was, go to the track, don't take a car, just go and watch the fast guys, and you'll see the guys walk in the starting line. They're usually quiet. They might be slightly overweight, but they're usually wandering around the start, and you'll see that there's 3, 4, 5 cars, and that same guy, he might even have a laptop in his hands, kind of watching them leave. And then you go walk by those cars pitching, you'll see that same guy there. You've probably found your guy, your local guy. That's that guy that's working on these cars and is over there tweaking, and he's probably the guy you want to talk to. Better than asking the Facebook geniuses that we all know and love so much. Go to your local racetrack and see who's going fast and go talk to them. They're the ones with the experience and that are actually doing it.
One of the things that I'm going to agree with, I agree with all of that, but thank you, Bill Armstrong. I'm going to get you later. Anyway, is the local guy thing, because that's hugely helpful, because people that have experience are also good at kind of leaning casually over the hood and noticing you don't have any return springs on your throttle, or
or in the case of the other day, jam nuts on your control, on your steering arms, or on your what's it called, tie rod ends.
Yeah, just little stuff that you pick up over time. I'm kind of infamous for looking at other people's cars, and I will say these things quietly, but I was sort of taught to look for those things, and it's like, dude, before you make that hit, maybe it's time to put the radiator cap back on, or whatever. Because you know how it is in the pits. Everything is suddenly in a hurry. You got hours at drag racing to get ready, and yet it's always a rush.
Hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait.
Yeah. So, that's the time to go through all those things, because that way you don't have those little things that happen. Our road race car we're working on, same exact sort of deal. We had an issue with very high end of the high speed parts of the track. Fuel pressure was coming off. This is a stock ECU. This is our 2018 Cobra or Coyote swap deal. And he was smart enough, the driver was smart enough to notice the fuel pressure dropping, and he could actually feel the thing begin to kind of nose over top end of fourth gear at the end of a long straight. And so it's like we checked all kinds of things. And the last thing was, well, let's pull the pump back out of the tank, make sure everything is there. And it's one of these inexplicable deals. And I'm sorry, Rick, for saying this out loud on the air. But there were a couple of paper towels that were in the tank that had wrapped themselves around the pickup.
You're not the first person I've seen that with.
So, stuff happens, and you have to be, careful enough to go through it and pick out, and test it. And we did flow tests, and we filled this 1 gallon jug about 11 times, knowing how many seconds we had to get to X amount based on what the fuel flow was supposed to be. It's like, we're not there, and the pump doesn't sound happy. So it's like, okay, then you got to work that through. And people that have experience know those kind of things. They can walk up to a car and said, your fuel pump's not happy.
What I always said is the tuning part's easy. It's the troubleshooting when the sensors aren't following what you're supposed to do. That's the hard part in tuning. I mean, punching buttons to air fuels or to say the right numbers. That's easy.
Easy.
Smack that button until they're right.
Yeah, you'll learn who your tuner is when your car don't run right. That's when you'll learn who your tuner is.
I know one thing you said. What's something that your tuner should do? If you're on a standalone, they should ideally, even if you tell them you did it, they should be putting timing light on that thing. I don't care if you told me you timed it. I don't trust it till I see the light.
You see David Henderlong's post. A good tuner can make anything work. A great tuner understands the mechanics of the engine as well as the electronics at a high systems level. It's problem-solving basics.
Tuning is problem solving.
Best thing, right? It's problem solving. It's really easy to adjust air fuel ratio and find out the timing that it wants and how to do some power management going down track. That's really easy. It's getting all the details and the bugs worked out so it's not destroying itself making a pass. That's the hard part. Separates the men from the boys. Speaking of which, wow, I got to tell you guys after the show, remind me to talk to you about all the couple of different jobs I worked on this last 2 weeks. Emergency help us troubleshoot.
There's a corollary to that, and we've talked about this before about going to the dyno shop and deciding little things like who's going to drive the car. And my advice is if you haven't driven the car in a dyno before,
don't volunteer.
Oh yeah. I actually got a good example at the shop when I showed guys are strapping the cars, and I was like, they're talking like, oh, well, we're trying to get some of these guys to do some pulls, so I'm not having to leave the office every 3 seconds for something basic. Aerial Adams are a bitch to strap. I've always had to move. We had one the straps were tight, still tried to jump out of the dyno. And I put some cat straps on it when the other guys was driving it. When he gets out, I point at the dyno. I was like, hey, you see how that ramp right there just moved 4 inches forward and you never noticed? Yeah, don't be the first guy to find out what happens when that happens.
No. Also, everyone listening, if you haven't gone and looked at my Facebook wall and seen the E3 Extreme photo shoot on William Tetra's RX-7, you're just failing at life right now. Just saying.
And maybe we can share a couple photos here, maybe somehow. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know how to
Scott,
share
you're
your
muted.
screen?
Scott starts talking to his muted mic.
No, I'm not.
You
Yes, I
were.
was. I was talking to my dog. You can't hardly see him.
Where's your puppy?
He's 12 and a half years old and he ain't getting up for much.
Sounds like me.
Pretty much. What else was on topic for tonight?
Oh, Allison's on. Hub dyno for the win, no straps. I gotta ask.
Yeah. I gotta have my Eat Crow post because I had an experience a couple weeks ago on a
We
brand
can't
new
put
install
the atoms on a hub dyno
Dynocom
easily.
tripods. No, I mean I was all over them. And their tech support. But Paul was logged in helping get it set up. But as they do, they help the new customers or whatever. And it worked really good once we figured out kind of getting the RPM window right. I still would rather see them emphasize using engine RPM on torque converter cars to kind of decide, where the real RPM is versus using hub speed or axle speed. However, once we figured out like the entry, the start of the pole load and the end of the pole load, we were able to, it was pretty cool. I was actually able to park it like at the boost and rough RPM range that I wanted for just like 1, maybe 2 seconds at a time. And we were able to move that around and kind of build the tune for the track in different segments. It didn't really beat the shit out of the motor. I was pretty impressed actually. And I messaged her. I was like, I have to eat crow about that at some point in time, because I have not been a fan. I've not had a lot of good experiences on anybody's hub dynos out there, honestly. Any of the big power ones. And then the challenge, I think, is maybe the lack of inertia of those systems compared to big rollers, and many other things. But no, that was my first really good experience on one of those. It was not just average. It was better than average. It was cool. So anyway, ha. Now get off my shit, Allison.
I think the thought there. I've seen some
We've had
videos.
classes down there, and they're super cool people. We like the Dynocom folks, but they know I'm a dickhead. If something isn't working, I'm going to tell you I don't think it's working good.
Yeah, we're going to get you new shirts.
I got my Apollo shirt on. Russ Freeman and Jessica Freeman. I don't know if they saw that or not, but Apollo the vet. And if you guys know, they're Russ Freeman's big block vet. Blake and the guys did a bunch of work on that.
The one thing I've noticed about with hub dynos, and this is just based solely on videos that you see on YouTube and stuff, I see some cars move around quite a lot to the point where it's like, they not have any shocks in that thing, because the car does react to the loads presented by the engine and other stuff. And you see a car kind of hopping around. It's like, I don't think it's supposed to do that, is it? And I'm not sure what best practice is there, because I have never run a car personally on a hub dyno, so I don't know. But what you laughing about, kid?
Real quick, I'm going to ask, Facebook, is your video frozen or is it just my computer being stupid?
I'm seeing video moving on Facebook on mine.
Mine just popped up.
I see it moving here. It couldn't possibly be Perduto's sweet computer that's never any kind of problem. Like that.
I know nothing.
I got $48 in this piece of equipment.
All right.
On Facebook,
So
go on.
we should probably mention to people that Allison Black is the co-owner, entrepreneur, whatever, for the Dynocom dynos, because I've learned that not everybody on here knows who everybody else and what car it is they have and what equipment they make and all those things. So it's a good idea occasionally to introduce celebrities when they join us. So
celebrities,
yes. Are those the new stickers?
Those are. I have a box building for you, and I have. Hang on.
Sweet.
I want to post the YouTube link for the guys there's a couple of guys that said it was a little bit sketchy.
Nice.
On Facebook. Hold on, I'm going to put this in the Facebook message or comments. Just added that. When there's a YouTube stream, I'm sure, unless Facebook wants to fact check it or something.
McMurtry on there, listen.
Yeah, Justin, you need to be over on YouTube with the cool kids.
Maybe he's tuning. Are you talking about me tuning my laptop, Allison? I can't tune a car, let alone a laptop.
Max
One of
out
my
the
specialties is I
memory.
used to be an IT guy, so it's I did an administrative install. If you have problems with remote tuning Holley and the display is fucked up on any of the Holley software, and it doesn't, you can't see the fuel table when you're connected online and using like AnyDesk or TeamViewer, uninstall the Holley software and reinstall it as administrator. Run the install executable program as administrator. You right click it and pick the option, run as administrator, and it will fix all that shit. Been doing a lot of that lately.
Speaking of, shout out to Ryan from Holley for bailing. We had a CAN die on a Holley HP on a car over at Will's shop, and sent it in to him and updated some firmware. I don't know what he did. He did some nerdy stuff, and it came back and all is good now. So shout out to Ryan for helping us out there.
Thank God for the people who can do nerdy stuff.
Yes, nerdy stuff.
All right, Scott. So what other questions did we have that we collected over the last few days?
Hold on, let me pull that screen back up. No, that's about it. I was gonna talk. I mean, I had some other things written down about where to get your knowledge base from, because it's difficult to say, all right, whose YouTube channel should I watch? There's a ton of guys doing first start. Hey, I got my Holley working on my 5-liter Mustang or whatever. Some of them don't really tell you if they're experienced or not. So some of them are misleading. My thoughts there are watch a bunch of them. And then that's where you got to kind of converse with the rest of the guys in your crowd that are running the similar combos and same ECU type, and just kind of watch what problems they're having. And they bring their stuff online. But some of these guys have good advice. Even Matt Happel, not super happy with me, but
I wonder why.
Some good shit. He has some really good stuff. Now the parts where when some of these guys start basically turning into a promotional, like a paid promotion thing or whatever, that's right away you got to have red flags going up there. If they're like, oh, I use this product and it works great or whatever. Did you get some of those free? Well, maybe it works great. Maybe.
I think the other thing that makes sense, and it doesn't matter if you're at the drift track or the drag strip or the land speed racing or whatever, the people that are being successful, and there's the guy walking around maybe with a laptop observing and going back and playing on the keys. There are going to be other there, including maybe the owner or the guy who's the primary builder. And those are the cars to look at to learn from, because that's the other thing you see. You see a lot of stuff at the track sometimes. And my first question is always, okay, the tech guy is getting on me because my Hans device is about to be out of cert. And yet something else goes by and it's like, that's part of the control arm hanging off, So it's like, watching the people who are successful and looking at their cars and looking at their program and how they run their program, that can be a great learning experience as well, without having to buy anything or search online. And there was a little thing going around today about the term assholes. And my observation is, if you're going to spend a lot of somebody's time, you need to spend some of your money with them when you get it figured out. I'll just say this, it's inappropriate to do that. And then, oh, well, I found an eBay knockoff for, 30% less. So I'm just going to get that. And it's going to be the same. Well, turns out, no, it isn't. We found a 10 PSI pressure drop across the, God forbid, eBay pressure regulator that the guy with the Coyote swap we're working on decided to buy because he was trying to save a little money. And,
it looks the
PSI.
same. It's the same color.
Yeah, it's the same color. It looks the same. Must be the same. No, it isn't. We also learned a valuable lesson this week for those of you who follow politics about what made in China means. I'm writing an article for a magazine on this, and we got our new BenPack 2-post. This is me, humble, not so humble brag about our new 2-post lift. But even this BenPack asymmetrical, blah, 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 the whole thing is made in China now. It's nice.
Wow.
It's nice. I can't say anything bad about the product. It is a nice product. I know it will work, but bottom line is that's where it's made. And the guy who was installing it, because they charged us $180 for install, and it was like, yeah, sign us up.
Yeah.
Said that, the rotaries are made there now. The forwards are made there now. Don't care what you buy.
It's always comes down to QA. They can make good stuff. The problem is it has to be the stuff that's checked. Because the stuff that doesn't pass QA goes to the next guy. The stuff that doesn't pass their QA goes to the next guy. The stuff that doesn't pass that QA goes to Snake Eater.
Good. You said it.
I was hoping I could put that all smooth enough that it took a second.
The opinions you're about to hear are those of the host and caller, not necessarily the show itself.
No, fuck that. It's Brian Barnhill, tunertools.com. That's awesome. Send it. He will tell you what's up now. We have turned him into a savage.
I've got a guy currently, non-car guy, bitching on one of my posts where I was looking for a Magnuson pulley, just leaking all the pulleys in stock, and I'm pissed off at him, so he's being a dick. So yeah, I'm a little pissed off. So yeah,
My favorite was the European guy that ordered something on like a Saturday at
Oh my
3
God.
a.m. and why wasn't it here Sunday morning at 10 a.m. guy or whatever it was. I thought that was hilarious.
I've had a few more Italians pull that crap. I don't know what it is.
Damn Italian.
I like their
Barney's
motorcycles,
like,
but apparently the
listen,
guy's buying shit.
Hilarious.
All right. So with racing events coming back on calendar, so we have in the endurance drag racing world, we have Midwest Drags. We have Rocky Mountain Race Week 1 and 2.0 is about to drop. Even Drag
tomorrow
Week
or the
is
next day?
coming back. Yeah. Yeah, so even Drag Week is coming back this year. So in my little end of the sport, we are suddenly an embarrassment of riches given last year's starvation diet. So I gathered that that's happening most places. Our racetracks here are still not open because apparently it's not safe to stand outside in your pit 20 feet away from somebody else. It's craziness. Our guy with the road race car was up at Laguna Seca, and they had a mask monitor going around the pits telling people that if you have one violation, you're blackballed for the event.
Oh,
Meaning
what?
you needed to be wearing masks in your paddock because, that's the fancy word they use at road racy stuff instead of pit. And, at all times everywhere. And we're talking this, mammoth multi-square mile facility and all that stuff, and they were making them do that. Just kind of unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I
That
live in
said,
Florida.
Oops, I rage typed.
COVID doesn't exist anymore.
that's what I hear. So since I'm the only one on here who has or probably ever will get a vaccine because I'm old and infirm,
We probably will have to here. I'm not really gonna
COVID shame.
have much of a choice, but
well, that's the thing that worries me is this sort of hold people at gunpoint. It's one thing to, decide to do it. But it's
I
another
know
thing
we're all
to
gonna have to have
do
it at some point. You watch, guaranteed. Just slide it right in there.
I got my second Moderna shot yesterday, and now it feels like the first time it felt like somebody gave me a little knuckle in the arm, and this one feels like somebody gave me a good punch in the arm, but I also had kind of the aches like you've had the flu or something this morning. So it does have the second one does have a little more of an effect.
Yeah.
I'm all fine
both
now.
my in-laws and my my mom and stepdad had said the same thing. They kind of felt like that. It made my mom a little.
I mean, at least you're
Little
not
sick,
going
but
a
nothing
third
bad.
elbow and a couple more teeth or anything.
Or the hand growing out of my forehead. Yeah.
Or the strong hand guy.
Well, and the effects can be offset by tonight's sponsor, Larceny Barrel Proof. Oh, it won't show up in the camera.
Fail. There it is. Keep it in front of you.
There
Ready
it
to go.
is. Yes.
Keep it in front of your face. That worked out.
So I can recommend this particular pour. This got a lot of press earlier in the year, but not a bad pour, and not too expensive.
Rock on. So what else is going on? Other events. Sweet 16. Perduto, did you go on site for that?
No, I wanted to, but we didn't have a converter. Turbo wasn't done in time. It was just like, you know what? Let's.
I looked at logs for 2 cars real time. I didn't go. Man, I haven't been to one of his events now in like a year and a half.
I got
get off my butt.
I got one remote from there that I was helping with that I showed you guys the logs of, and saw what some, let's say, high-end tuners put into cars. And like we talked about, it's a drag car. All it has to do is get to the brake and go fast. But it made me really second guess how much time I put into some of these tune files I write, because wow. But then again, that car went 370 and change. So who am I to say it's wrong? But yeah. Larceny is a tad.
So what else is going on?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is a dump valve or that sort of technology kind of required now on big power tire limited cars in order to get them to second half as well as get off the line properly and be able to build boost, et cetera, et cetera? Is that just standard, or are a lot of people not needing that? And they are.
No, it's very combo dependent. Very combo dependent. Currently,
Everybody's got it, and they're not all working the same for everybody, is what I've
Yes.
observed in my experiences. Some of them, I'm like, by the way, we didn't even activate the dumps that time, and it didn't change anything, didn't seem
No.
to change anything.
Seen it
in the
happen.
store.
Yes.
I just had that on a few of them. And then some guys getting mad at vendors, and I'm not sure that's the problem. And I'm not sure that thing is as scienced out as everybody thinks, but some of them, it makes a huge difference. And some of the no prep guys, I've seen some where you wouldn't expect it to be that big of a deal, but I have seen it make some of that stuff make a huge difference. Either way, you got to spend big bucks to do it right.
And there's so many different ones. There's internals, there's externals, there's regulated ones, there's open dumps, and it's which one does what and how's it do it differently.
Experimentation going on.
Yeah, dude, it's every transmission company has their own idea of how it should work and what it should do. And meanwhile, I'm talking to the converter guys. I'm like, hey, where do you need it to be so we can kind of make it do that, if that makes sense?
Because we talk about tuning, and if you're tuning and you're controlling dump valves as part of that process, well, that's just one more thing been added to your list, right?
Yes, and that's also when you talk about that track-based tuning and what it does, and it's a it's one of those things you have to try, and you have to have that data before and after. And I'm even breaking down the data in my laptop as this is FTI's dump valve, this is Mark Mickey's dump valve, this is Hugh's dump valve, so that I can go back and look at those data streams and see what they did when they were on, when they were off, and how they all acted differently, because every one of them acts different. It's weird.
I would say it's probably not weird, because as you say, they are picking up pressure at different points in the circuit. They're reintroducing it at different points, or just back into the pan. I know that some of the Hughes stuff, they have dual circuit dump valves, and there's one that goes back into the pressure circuit and the other one doesn't. And yeah, I'm surprised that anybody might have that really well sorted. Most of the guys who seem to have it really well sorted don't necessarily want to share.
We could probably have a podcast just dedicated to dump valves, honestly, because there's so many and so many different style transmissions too.
Everybody's all quiet tonight.
I'm reading.
I unfortunately got everybody on the Facebook anyway off on a vaccine nonsense. So my apologies for that.
Right. No.
We are not going to discuss that on this podcast.
Did you guys watch Right Clemp and Logan Terrence podcast ever? They're pretty good.
Someone asked if atomizers have all sorts of issues. I'll be honest, man. Since the atomizer 3s, we have not had.
Not that much.
I'm a knock on wood.
No, I tell my guys to start them up and run them once a week.
That's
warm
it
up for 10 minutes.
We haven't had an issue yet, man. They've been absolutely bulletproof for us, thankfully.
Maybe set up a leaner warm-up tune for your alcohol motors and start it up 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes idle time. It'll heat up real quick, whatever it takes to get it warmed up. My guys have been not having problems at all. As long as they don't sit there, as long as they don't open them up to atmosphere, and empty the rails out and have them just hanging out in the dry air.
I see a post from Family Blair. You guys might know who it is. I don't, unfortunately, but I've always wondered what you guys would say about my tune file, probably WTF. I think we could have a lot of fun if people went ahead and posted their fuel maps.
File, man. Send it to Scott at
send it to Fuel Map.
Facebook. And here's the thing.
Now we'll tear that shit apart.
We'll tear it apart, but here's the thing.
I'll do it. I'll pull it up, but I won't tear it apart. We'll give you a commentary on it. That's a good idea for a segment. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know who Family Blair is, but I'm going to assume he doesn't tune for a living. The tune file the tune file I was looking at is someone that, I just know charges $1,500 a day to be at the racetrack and does it solely for a living and tuned at one point the fastest radio car on the planet. I can say that without narrowing down who it is. So when I see that, and I know that this person probably has $15,000 invested in this tune file, and I'm looking at it going, yo, it works. I can't say it doesn't work. It works fine, but it's like, that was a 3-minute tune map right there. Like that was a 3-minute timing table. Like there was no thought process, like just blank, let's go. Here we go.
You mean like the default Terminator timing map?
No, I have another local shop that does that. I'll be quiet. Hey, okay. We were talking about picking your tuner. If you've had a tuner tune your car and you're wondering how it is, especially with a Holley, just learn how to go in and turn off your closed loop and auto tune and go for a drive and see how your car runs. That'll answer your question real fast. Don't floor it, please. I don't want to get those phone calls.
Ease it into it. Watch your AFRs. Yeah.
I think he said Scott at RealTuners. Scott's asking Jerry's asking what email to send that to.
Scott at realtuners.com. First one in gets a real-time review. I'll set up for it right now. Keep talking amongst yourselves. I'll get it going in the background. It'll take me 2 or 3
Someone
minutes.
said we should do a live remote tune on the podcast one night.
I've done that on other webinars and stuff before. Done it from live streams at classes too. Yeah, I'd do a remote tune if somebody wanted. Somebody's ballsy enough to send in their tune file. That's pretty cool. I'll make it happen. Sorry, cameras.
I mean, I'm done tuning GTS V2 right now.
There we go. Waiting for the.
What was that again, James?
I'm done tuning a CTS V2 right now. I'm actually working on the base map, multitasking.
Very nice.
You want to share?
I don't know if I have that set up on here. I would.
Okay.
Are you you're on your phone, right?
I'm on my phone. Yeah.
Next to the laptop. Yeah, you can't share.
Yeah. There. Can't really see much. So many little words.
I'm waiting for the file.
So this is stock ECU stuff that you're working on, right, James?
Maybe.
Okay.
No, not that.
This is a vehicle that has been converted to racetrack only, no longer has a VIN, and is only trailered.
Exactly.
A standalone in it. I don't care. It's a race car.
I'm not driving it on the street.
Hey, I'm just glad I'm not the only one that says closed loop cowboy. I am pumped someone said that. That is my favorite saying.
Dude, everybody who tunes in pound per hour mode is closed loop cowboy. I don't care what you
Facts.
say.
Big
You
facts.
can't get that right without just living.
Except for there's a brand new prototype car that shipped with a bespoke ECU that is pound per hour mode.
Right.
I've talked about that before. I'm already working on one of the first packages we're going to offer for that is an ECU swap. And then tell the guys that make the car to go pound sound. I'm making 400 horsepower. It's fine.
Right.
I showed it made 400 horsepower on the time. I was like, oh, it's too much. We got to turn it down. They made me turn it down to 350.
Now that's weak.
I get, well, it's because they want to be able to protect for the next model up and not have to change hard parts and up tune it.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's an outboard motor. Welcome to outboard boat motors.
Welcome to IBM since 1986.
150, 175, and 200s from pretty much all brand. Which computer do you want to plug in today?
First,
yep. And I get it. From a marketing standpoint, I can't blame them for it, but it's not going to stop me from making a package that lets me make the money off doing that uptune instead.
So Scott, when you and I have discussed closed loop before, we're trying to get it on the pass, never mind all the other drive around stuff, but on the pass, we're trying to get it down in those very little single digit percentages. In other words, what it's adjusting when we look at that. And because I only have experience with one ECU, I don't know what Holley does or the other ones do, but I know that's always been our goal, is to have the table close enough that the corrections are minor, not big chunks. Is that still correct?
Yeah. I mean, I always try to have it so it's just taken out a few percent, right? The closed loop correction is, and not running learn. I don't like to run learn anytime that we're not actively adjusting the fuel table. You don't want that to ever happen, I don't think, when you're not observing what it's changing.
Holley Jesus, take the wheel. They hear that? Holley Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, that's where ECUs that do long-term trim maps rather than just learning, like HalTech, a lot of those guys, they do long-term trim map where you can look at it and decide whether to apply it or not. And then you can even modify the trim map before you apply it, so you can go through your data.
Analyze in Tuner Studio's log viewer and data and Mega Log Viewer is badass at doing that. It lets you pick and choose, hey, I want to do this block of RPM.
The problem that I don't like about the learn is the way it learns. So like if you're in a particular cell, it'll adjust that cell with the most authority, and it'll kind of apron that down.
Yep.
Or curtain that down to neighboring cells, and it just screws everything up, especially if you have like a big lumpy cam or something that, has peaks and valleys within 200 RPM swing. You're never going to get that thing dialed in using learn. So me personally, I turn learn off. Like on every Holley tune that I do, it doesn't have learn on at all.
The only time I use learn occasionally is on a remote when I can't hear the car and I don't feel like I'm getting the best information from the customer.
Can't hear the car. That's interesting.
Mike
That's,
Kettner beat you out, Jerry.
Yeah, that's when everyone asks me what the worst part of remote is, and what the only thing that really bugs me is that I can't hear the car.
Yes.
Because the number of times I've been like, hey, what's in? You said it. You can't hear the car, and you don't trust the guys.
Yes.
There's been a lot of times I've asked a question. I was like, we had a car having all these problems. Like, guys, like, what's going on? Like, it's just I'm asking all these questions, and I was like, guys, like, it looks like I'm getting a misfire. I was like, oh yeah, there's a misfire. I was like, you guys tell me this car sounds great. Like,
thanks, bro.
Yeah, I can't hear the misfire over your. All I hear is this whirring noise when your cell phone just gets drowned out on the microphone. And I just watch it out.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Jason, you may need to have. There he goes. He's tweaking it. Like he's on it. Damn it, Jason, you are on the ball. You're not just sitting there taking drinks. He's probably doing that too. But, all right, check it out. Mike Kettner, listener, fired this up. Man, guys, this is a cool idea. We're gonna have all these guys tear this shit apart. I'm curious what people think. The first thing I see when I look at this is that okay, there's a volumetric efficiency table. Somebody's paying attention. That means that in the Holley here, he's got it set for VE based instead of speed density, which it truly is a big deal if you want good off idle performance and street car drivability. I don't know about the rest of the configuration. I'm guessing he's got it all lined out.
So Scott, let's
see what he's got
clarify a
for
couple of
ignition.
things.
I don't even know what engine, but do I know?
Let's clarify a couple of things here. So he sent you the actual tune file. You have in turn loaded it into the Holley software.
Correct.
So
I loaded it into Holley software. Sorry.
Of things. So yeah, walk people through, because not everybody. One of the things I found working with my main tuner is the keyboards are clattering so fast. It's like I have no idea what the hell happened. And the next thing you know, it's like we're at 6,000 or 8,000 feet. Well, I might have smoothed it too much and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm horrible about that too fast. So all I did was let me
walk
just start
everybody through what you were doing as you do it here, so we can kind of follow.
I fired up the Holley V5 and I went to open global file. And then Mike Kettner, I created a folder for him that this is where I stored from his email. Pulled it up, and now I can go fuel sensors, ECU.
Go to his rev limiter. I saw something already.
Hold on. So, where are we at here?
Why we got a 400 RPM swing on rev limiter?
Yeah, I don't like that one. I kind of like him to be right. Either spark high only, like this is probably my favorite one. I would change that.
So explain what you saw and why you're making the change.
Well, so I see he's got timing at 15 degrees for cranking, and I'm a big crank him at 0 or 5 fan, no matter what you got. However, I don't know what do I got to be careful if I'm to change that to a 5 or a 0 right off the bat? What might be the
timing?
problem?
The mechanical timing is off.
We don't know if it's a distributor engine or not because we haven't
Right.
looked yet at the ignition configuration. So what's he got? Nope, it's a 24X LS and a single pulse cam. It's the typical deal here. He's got DIS coil unplugged. He's got no offset adjusted. What does that jump out to anybody?
Which means I don't think timing.
Never put a timing light on
May
it.
not have synced his timing on this one. And they're like, I swear it was dead on. Okay. All right. Maybe
What is the typical range
about a
that you
month
see
ago
when
that
you
was like
actually
7
put the
off.
light? When you put
I've
a light
seen
on
I've seen
something like
11 degrees, Bill.
Yeah,
LSs move a lot. That's with an LS. I've seen a bunch of. I've seen a range.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so back to ignition here. Everything else, it's just firing order. I could have told us an LS. So I would change the cranking to 5 on an LS. Leave the crank to run RPM at 400. Now
The first thing I do there is look at that and then go look at the timing map and see if there's also a weird offset in the timing map.
Oh my God, what a beautiful segue into the timing map. So his timing map starts at this column at 600 RPM. So it's going to pretty quickly whip up into some pretty aggressive timing here. I'd probably be something more like 15 in this column, and then have your 22s right here. The rest of it, he's probably watched the webinar.
So it doesn't want to kick back when it first tries.
Well, we also don't know if this were optimized and we saw these numbers too high or too low. That also is an indication that the base timing isn't set right.
Perfect segue into be careful. So famous YouTube tuner got on one of my customers' cars after I left, and we did a first start. And he's like, let me drop on my advanced tables for you. I'll show you what's up. And dropped on an advanced table. I noticed he's got advanced tables active here. We definitely want to look at these and see what he's got active. He's got 2 tables active here, flex fuel multiplier and a flex fuel timing offset. I like what I'm seeing here. He's only got 1.5 degrees of timing offset for ethanol. Some guys' default tables, Super Tuner guy, YouTube guys drops one in that puts like an 8-degree offset for timing on your LS. No fucking way.
No,
this is good right here. He's done his homework.
Again, walk through and explain that, Scott, because not
so what's going on here is
everybody's
between full ethanol content and, but where are we at here? Hold on.
Oh yeah, go back to table 3, buddy.
I'm on it. Right there.
That's x-axising the TPS.
Right. His x-axis is TPS. So he's retarding with what he's pulling 1.5 degrees out for wide open throttle here. So back up. Hold on. Let me see what I got right.
But he's got it labeled flex timing.
And it is offsetting timing.
So now go back to table 1. He's got them. He's got the labels mismatched.
Right. Okay.
What he's got labeled flex timing is TPS timing. Flex fuel. Oh no, that's just fuel multiplier
here. So this is a fuel flow multiplier, flex fuel sensor.
Yep.
This is just the fuel rescale though, right?
Yes.
So
so you're adding 34% fuel at 100% ethanol.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Yep.
So he's got this right.
But
this one here, his timing offset is a little weird. It's TPS based. I was actually expecting this to be
based on flex
ethanol
fuel
content based. Let's change that for him. Now let's fuck this guy's tune up.
So I will say the only thing I would say, so if it's a drag car, this is fine. If this is a street car or road race car, normally I'll want to do a 2D table and do RPM versus, because even maybe 3D, but you want to do RPM
Knowing
and
how
load
the
versus
OEMs do it,
timing.
they won't have
because down low you sometimes have to take timing out on ethanol.
But anyway, long story short, back to why we looked in the advanced tables. It was because we were trying to figure out what all's going on. Does he have shit going on? Oh God.
Oh, here we go.
I know whose table this is.
Oh,
This is your injector end angle offset table here. And
Okay, you gotta
I hope you didn't
explain
pay some guy $25 to do this for you.
You got to explain this one.
You're never going to figure this out unless you're on the dyno, and these numbers are going to be way the hell off of what they like, at least at wide open. So I don't know if I subscribe much to trying this. I'd try that on or off, and I would almost turn it off just to kind of get your tune figured out. So we got there's the advanced stuff there. What I was worried about was you had talked about startup and ignition timing, and Brian was really smart to say, hey, after it goes from 400 RPM to 600 RPM when it's passing through at startup, what's it do? Well, his tune kind of janked a lot of timing in there, like 27 degrees at 600 RPM. Now, remember, in theory, the burn rate of the rate of flame travel is the same regardless of an RPM change, unless you're talking a huge change. But it would be the same at 600 RPM as it would be at 1200 RPM. So 20 degrees of timing at 600 would be about the same thing as 40 degrees of timing at 1200. Well, on this customer's car, Super Tuner, somebody had logged in and dropped an advanced table that turned on or added timing below target idle RPM. If you were below target idle, it would add as much as 15 degrees. So we had like 25 in the bottom row. Then his thing was adding 15 degrees. And then the idle spark that I had turned on the Holley that he didn't go to look at was also adding like 4 or 5 degrees. It ended up having like 54 degrees of timing because this guy's huge, crazy timing addition, and it made a huge intake backfire when they went to start the car the next time.
Yeah, the thing either won't fire or something awful will happen. Yeah.
So, say again?
I just said, so it's either not going to start at all, it's going to kick back, or like you just said, it's going to backfire.
Yeah. So this right here is a decent ramp, and Brian might even do this. If you've seen the OEM tunes, it might even be like a 10 degrees in the first column, but that'll make it start a little smoother. Now that's timing. I looked at his fuel table, and man, I mean, the guy, I think he's watched the webinar. Look at that. Yeah. Look at that shit right there. Okay, so this probably runs kick ass. I'll bet this thing runs good. Let's look at his Excel enrichment for his tip in though. Okay. First thing I see here, he has watched the webinar. He's got the shape that seems to work good for me. And he zeroed out the manifold pressure rate of change one. However, one of the things I've learned since the webinars, sometimes you can get farther down in your acceleration enrichment versus TPS blanking. What this is what's the minimum change percent per second for the system to turn on any type of accelerator pump shot. And what you can do is if you had a data log, you could open up a data log let's see if I got anything worth looking at in here. I don't know whose this is or what I'm looking at, but you can set them up. I'm going through it quickly here, but let's look at
Don't go too quick. Give people a chance to catch up.
well, here's what I want to do. I want to look at the throttle position, and I want to see what the noise level is for his TPS rate of change, which might be a little bit much to jump in right here, but you can find TPS ROC, put it in basic fuel, and just when it's sitting there.
So TPS rate of change is not an absolute value. It's a delta value that represents literally the rate of change.
Yeah, not just the throttle position, but how quickly is it moving? Just like shock travel versus shock velocity. But anyway, so it's not really triggering above 0. It seems that there's no noise issue. So you can take this number down 2 or 3, and you'll get better response. Where slow opening between these 2 points right here, when you're barely ramping on the throttle, rolling in, going down, say you're cruising 50 miles an hour down the highway and you roll onto an on-ramp and you gently roll into it another 20% throttle, you can really fine tune and trim your throttle performance with this one right here.
And one thing, and while we're on throttle, because this came up with a couple other threads in other groups this week, don't get caught up in what the wideband says. It's the same thing we talked about at idle. If the car accelerates good, don't get caught up in the wideband says. Just make it accelerate good and smooth.
Especially for a big exhaust, big cam, big inch, big turbo, whatever. Big lumpy exhaust at idle. Always tune your idle by leaning it out until it struggles, and then just put enough fuel back in to make it happy. It might read 20-1 on the O2 sensor. Don't worry about it.
You're not going to hurt it under boost. You're not going to hurt it in A. Make it run good.
Yeah, you're really not going to hurt it at cruise speeds, at light throttle. You're just not. It's hard to hurt the engine. And if you're doing it wide open and you want to be able to play around but not hurt the engine, run overkill fuel while you're getting the first tune figured out. Run it on C16. I don't care what you're set up
and
for.
Let Holley Jesus take the wheel. No kidding.
Exactly. Then it's super safe. Now this guy's got a learning deal going on here, so I don't know if he's got.
It's on.
It's funny. He watched so
why do we know
this
that?
is an interesting cat. He watched the webinar, but he doesn't trust me when I say turn off the fucking learn. So because everybody else's YouTube video, they obviously leave the learn on or whatever. But I say
even if you do get Holley defaults to like 50-60% in learn, right?
Yeah.
If you want to turn, if you want to leave learn on and you I get it's a warm blanket. It makes you feel nice. Drop that number down to like 15-20%, maybe really 10-15%.
Nope.
And
what
even
happens
then,
is they burn the plug wires, dude, and it learns itself stupid before they figure out what's going on, and it fucks up a perfectly good tune. You actually want the car to misfire and be weird.
And I'm trying to remember, right, because it automatically applies it. You can't look at the table and say, no, you're wrong, delete this. Yeah,
I mean, I've had guys come to me almost 2 or 3 times a week that have just jacked up fuel tables because they didn't catch that fouled spark plug for like 5 minutes of runtime.
That's why it should be a long-term trim table and not just apply this directly to my VE table. Let me decide if I want to apply that or not.
You're right. I don't like it because it'll learn itself dumb, and they don't know that you have to go in and do it right.
Long-term's fine. Self-learn, self-apply to the VE without letting me decide is bad.
Yeah, you have closed loop anyway like this to tell you right here, and I like what he's done here. I'm not going to argue with this. He's got his closed loop set not to come on at 1300.
Oh, so you can just log, you can log closed loop compensation and still see what it's trying to do and then apply that.
And so he's got this whole area right here. This guy tuned by hand. Okay, and by feel. And you can tell going off the throttle here. I'm going to guess, and he's probably sitting at home going, these dipshits don't know I just paid somebody $25 for one of Scott's tunes. No, I'm kidding. This is definitely something he did himself or someone's worked on. It's not one of mine necessarily, but this looks to me like he's worked on this pretty good. This is indicative of the classic Bewley cam, like the stage 2 or 3 stuff that he will do, where it literally starts to ramp. It's dog shit VE like a race cam at idle, which is great because you get a good choppy sound, right? I'm a guy who's down for that. If you get it to idle at 900 RPM or below, it's going to get a choppy sound. But as soon as you ramp that thing up to like 13, 1400 RPM and above, it starts acting like a torque cam. And you'll see he's even got a curve built in here. It looks like he's worked it pretty good, man. And it's literally peaking out at 5,250 RPM. That looks like the row that's his RPM torque peak. So I like that here. And I think he did say something about let's see what did he include specs? Oh God, I've got like 18 people have sent me tunes. Sorry guys.
You-
Hold on. I'm gonna do this every week. I think this is a pretty cool idea. Hold on. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Yep, twin turbo LS2 LJMS cam. I called it.
Yeah, so my map looks a lot
hilarious.
like that on the
I've
idle
seen
to
so
tip
many
in.
of them. They just work out just right looking like this with that step. That's fucking hilarious.
On a
Cool.
related topic, I've always tried to avoid the chop part of the table altogether because I found that doesn't make valve train parts happy. Maybe it doesn't matter in an LS,
Oh,
but
yeah.
on my stuff it does.
No. Tom Vigu and some of the better, more skilled, like Brad Nagel and Tony Bischoff and those guys have told me, Ray Barton said it too, you want to idle the engine as fast as you possibly can where it's still drivable, where the operator can still operate the car. So that's why the cup car engines idle at like 1600 RPM, pro stock engines 1600 RPM, 1800, because it's easier on the valve train.
I just think.
But
people
if
are
I
making
idle it
mistake.
lower, it chops more, bro.
I'm with you, and I
Yeah.
love the sound of some of these cams. I just think they've done a great job with these. On the
Mick,
LS
I
engine.
like
They
it,
really
but
have.
I also like tuning it out a bunch. I tried to hide it as much as possible in my GTO,
I got a guy where,
but I also hit the
blowers
turbo and
are-
everything in that car. So
Okay, so looking at
Mr.
everything else in
Slipper.
here. Oh, flood TPS clear at 35%. Dude, I usually run that at like 75 or 80. Fuel prime, yeah, 200%. He's probably worked on this.
Explain the flood clear TPS, Scott.
Okay.
You got to let people understand what we're saying here.
So flood clear is what percentage of throttle when you're cranking the starter above which it shuts off the fuel. So if you have like you had on a carbureted car and it's flooded, you hold the throttle wide open and you crank the starter and it'll clear the
And you wait for it to burn off all the stuff out of the accelerator.
yeah, it'll spit the
which-
stuff out
yeah.
the exhaust, the fuel. Okay. I'm just, pardon me for being fast and whipping through it, but I'm looking at this for the first time. So I'm not going to take 3 hours and go super slow. We can always rewind and play back. But this is an interesting air fuel ratio target table. Man, I'll tell you what I normally do. I'm this guy right here. I'm not a believer that it's really got to be RPM based. I do like what he's done here, where he's not trying to be like 14.74. You know, I heard guys bitching about not having 2 decimal places here, but I'll be something like 13.9. Now he's gasoline air fuel ratios, but I didn't ask him what fuel he's on. I'll make this whole row 12.4 just to start, and then I'll interpolate vertically, and this will be I don't know what fuel he's on. I'm going to presume that this is right, but always end up just
Oh, he had an ethanol
vertically.
multiplier in there, but it's not going to affect the target table.
I didn't do this right. Say that again, Mike.
I said he had an ethanol multiplier in the advanced tables, but that's not going to affect the target table.
Right. Why? You see what I got a bug going on here? I got a little V5 bug.
I see
I'm
it.
typing
I see it.
11.6 there. I had to go the other direction.
Yep, I see it.
That's why it fucked up. We've had that issue. I think that's related to Geisler's thing too, maybe. Okay, there's my typical. I mean, based on whatever his fuel wants up here. If he told me it was pump gas, I'd be like 10.9. If he said it was C16 up here, I'd be 12.5. So I don't know what gas he's on, but he set it for 11.6. So assuming he's got
Pump
that right.
gas 10.9.
Oh yeah,
20
pounds of
psi at an
boost.
LS. That's a
20
lot.
PS, sorry, I was forgetting
Dude,
about
at
the
20
turbo part.
psi
Never
of
mind.
boost, I will run that pump gas as rich as it will run before it starts to misfire.
Never
and then
mind.
back
I was
off.
forgetting about the boost thing. My
Ah.
mistake.
Yep, no problem. Back to Excel enrichment. Everything looks okay here. Some of the looks like somebody's worked on this quite a bit. The guy was like, "Here, chew this up," and I'm like, "Man, I'm making pretty minor changes here, and they may not even be. You may change some of them back." Okay, he's not messing with knock sensors. Man,
we
what
have
else
a
do you want me
quick-
to look at? He's got a trans control here. What's his pin map look like? Did he turn off the speedo output? No. All
The
right.
4L80. Oh,
Yep, 4L80.
for you guys that run this GM stuff, if you're running these, relatively small inch, that was what 403 LS, blah blah, single turbo or something. Is a 4L80 going to be a big power suck compared to the other options out there? Hello, what?
Oh, sorry. Is it a
I-
big power suck? 4L80s? I mean, yeah, what did we figure out? Maybe 50 or 60 wheel horsepower ish in your
Yes.
typical 1,000 wheel horsepower combo?
That's a can of worms, because you want to talk about people that'll get mad and start calling about. I'm a 4L80 fan, but man, are there some haters.
I don't have a dog in this fight. I run a power guide.
I like 4L80s for drag week stuff.
And I have a glide and a gear vendors for, drag week stuff. So I don't know. I'm just curious. I always had the impression they're big, they're heavy, and they take a lot of power.
We might have to draw a lottery on whose tune file to go through. I'd like to have James go through somebody's HalTech tune, or I could do a FuelTech tune, but this is kind of fun. We need to start doing this.
I think that's because everyone's like, oh, show me how to do this in the ECU. Sometimes going through something like this is the easiest way rather than.
If you go back to the Shannon Davis episode where he was doing this like a hero on his shared screen, I thought that was pretty badass. Same with the guys from Mtron and anybody else who's done it. Let's see, what else should I look at here? I presume your sensors are all configured, right? What's his IOs? What's he got here? Oh wait, there's some things I'm not supposed to show.
There's secret stuff?
No, not on this one. That's the other guys. Okay, never mind. So he's got 8 EGTs here. My man spent the money. Let me tell you what EGTs are good for. The individual cylinder problems. When you see a cylinder go cold, it can lead to all kinds of much quicker diagnostics. So he's got them configured as a Holley CAN EGT, and his serial number on his CAN EGT is 488. Pretty basic stuff. So that'll show up in his logs. I kind of wish we had some logs to go over. We could do that too. What else? Spark table. Let's turn on the heat map here. What happened? Yeah, okay. This isn't too bad. I'll often be at cruise. Me and Dahlquist have done this and validated this on the engine dyno a number of times, but I will often have more timing at light loads and decel.
A factory LS6 will go 42 degrees at cruise. Just so
no, I've dude, on some of them decelerating will be over 50 degrees.
But you won't get the burble tune like that, Scott.
No, you won't. Now, if you want the burble shit, well, go tune into the loser channel. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm whatever. If they want it, we'll give it to them. I've had some pretty fun, cool customers that were like, man, I don't want to sound like a roaster, but how do I? Like, oh, you want some flames? We'll make it happen. But anyway, this is about where I would have this. And then let's look at the graph of this. Okay, so you might just, it's not horrible, but you might do you got to hit the super tuner button. You got it.
One time.
You got to hit the one time on the super tuner button.
If you have to hit it multiple to get it there, then something else is off.
True. You don't want to hit it more than maybe twice, but once is probably about all right.
The super tuner button.
You've never heard it called that?
I don't have Holley, so I'm woefully ignorant here.
Well, I mean, every ECU smooth just about.
Megasquirt's your tuners, you got this on yours times 10. There's actually a ton of better table editing tools on the Megasquirt than on the Holley. Hate to say it, but no, Bill, you've probably seen me cranking through on VE tables. I can make them beautifully shaped in 30 seconds or less on
and then
table.
When you're pulling a trailer at 8,000 feet, high load and low TPS suddenly doesn't work so good.
No,
never mind.
No, you got to work on it. Yep. No, but we got it worked out. It's good stuff. That's the basics I see here. Anybody? What are the users saying? We got, or the listeners? Have we got any other?
We're getting a lot of positive. We can do this every night, they said.
Maybe we should reserve it to, maybe.
Of course we could.
One show a month or something like that where we do.
Motor runs good. He needs startup advice on this one here. So.
Startup? On what fuel? On all fuels or on just ethanol? Because that's a very big difference. Ethanol, you got to pour it in to get the thing to start cold.
This should work pretty good. I don't know. So maybe his issue is maybe in super cold weather down here, it might want a little bit stupider like this if it's on ethanol. But
and also
there was no after start hold off in it. No hold off in it at all.
When it's cold, yeah, this one here, but he still had lots of decay rate, right? 30 seconds. So I mean that's the hold off kind of the just adds to that before it starts decaying is what the hold off does. I don't know here. This one might need to be higher too if your problem is cold start. But
the question is it cold start or post start cold?
Exactly.
Like if it fires and then dies immediately, then we might have to go look at an idle map or hold off, or depending on how the ECU.
But Brian brings up a good point. How about your idle park
Yep,
position?
where's your park?
Oh, look
Yep.
here. So
Yeah.
he only using 50% of his idle valve at cold temperatures.
Open that
Usually,
shit.
them fuckers
Especially on
want
an
to be
LS.
wide
Well,
open on
is
an
this
LS.
is this a Holley throttle body on this thing? Open
we
that all the
don't
way up because
know,
it doesn't
but-
work anyway.
Always best to give it all the airflow when it's cold to start off. That makes your tuning a lot easier. So let it rev up a little bit. Also, people are going to fight me on this one. But
I'm trying to
see
remember
these-
if Holley lets you add temporary IAC during post start.
no.
Yeah,
Are you
that's
kidding?
a trick.
They don't even have
I'll-
best
yeah.
outputs.
Hold it open for 30 seconds, let it
Yeah.
idle up, and then bring it back down. Similar to how like an OEM will do it.
Yep. Well, they've got a decay time, right? A ramp decay time from your parked position to your target RPMs. I'll usually crank up these RPM above idle and RPM above idle to re-enable. I'll put those somewhere in the middle. But these ramp decay times, sometimes I'll shorten them down to almost nothing, and others if it's a big intake, big plenum intake or sheet metal thing, I get rid of the delays and the decays. and
Here's
let it
actually
take over quick.
so I'm not always a fan of closed loop idle either.
No, me either. No, I'm an open loop idle guy, but
And
I do
that's
like
one thing I've
idle
always
spark.
fought on Holley. Idle
Idle
spark is
timing?
great. Yep.
Yeah, but I'll crank that sucker up. I'll let that take a lot of
Some
time out.
ECUs will call this zero throttle, where you were talking about
Mhm.
cranking. It's nice to have a zero throttle map as well, because then you don't have to go
Separate maps,
fucking with your main spark map. Once you're not
Yep.
zero throttle, there's
Yep.
some crossover there. ITB cars, some cars with some weird throttle bodies. Sometimes that makes a problem, and you have to pick the best.
I mean, you guys need to do a HalTech deal, you and James, because there use some really good stuff there as far as being able to really fine tune things once you know what you're doing. The problem is it takes a little more time to learn.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, once you know where the basic stuff is, the
yeah.
tools are really easy to use, but it definitely it's somewhere
James' car
between.
runs good. It's a reach
Yeah.
through the window and fire it up, drives like a minivan thing.
Yep.
That's about it. Anybody else want to look at something else? I mean, I'm not going to bring up shift tables and stuff. There's boost control here. He's got boost versus RPM. All this. He's got his safeties set. That's really just stuff you do to take.
So it looks like he's not going over 15 psi.
Oh,
He's only
no.
got a 2.5 bar map.
Right. But I also see his target rate limiter is 30 psi per second. I've noticed that if you have problems with the solenoids, the boost, control, vent, and fill solenoids chattering at idle or when they're at steady pressure, lower this guy down to like 20. And if you look in your logs, you're never really going to be changing 20 psi per second or any faster than that. You limit that, it makes the PID tuning much easier over here on the left.
Hey, Mike,
That's
Yeah.
you said a second ago he only has a 2-bar map sensor.
Yeah.
two and a
Hey,
half.
where
2.5.
did you get that, and what is that affecting on this? Especially if he's running like 2.5 bar.
Which 2.5 bars he got, Scott? I just noticed it real quick when you're looking at it. So it should be,
GM
That's
2.5.
R1 sensor.
yeah, so that should read 1 bar down and 1.5 bar up, correct?
They call it a
Correct.
2.5 bar, but it actually reads higher than that. It'll read up to about 27, 28 psi.
So he's got his map stopping at 20 on his tables.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like he had his boost safety set at 15, right?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Boost
I'm gonna bet
safety
it's a
over
pump
here.
gas car.
Yeah, it must be a pump gas car.
Pump gas with flex.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think someone noted there's the flex fuel modifiers for startup. That would be my question. Is it cold starting bad on everything or just on
So what we ought
ethanol?
to do is a remote with this guy sometime. I'd do a remote and have him on the phone and see how it does. It get him on the Zoom call. Why not? We should probably do that. Bill's over here going, "Yay, something new! They finally came up with something." Because we need something fresh. But
Yes,
let's
please.
see. E85 in Florida cold start. There we go. So very good, Mike. Thank you for the help here. I'm going to send this file back to Mike now. And Jerry Bonifeld, man, I'm sorry we missed you. He sent me the first file, but he didn't include the right attachment. And then the very next one that came up was Mike Kettner's. So let me attach this file for him. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, everybody's going to see your email address. And then
I don't know
The
if he
next
looks
time we're
at
going to
the-
do this, we'll announce it in advance and we'll set up a method by which we're going to evaluate which
Yep.
tunes we're going to pull online and let people know so they can be here along with
Say
their friends.
bonus points if it's someone that can be from their garage and we can immediately see what kind of change it made.
yeah, if we can connect and do a remote live, I can actually do an any desk session from here. We can actually do a remote tune live. Why not? We'll give one away every couple of weeks or something. I'm down with that. I do
If
freebies.
anybody
anyway, if
likes
you see
that,
me in some
say
of the
so
groups.
in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if you got some ideas on what you'd like to see there. I don't mind doing this. It's a little more interesting. Okay, so I will drop the share and how do you make the share go away? Stop share. Very good. We're back. Woo. That was fun. Thanks, Mike Kettner. Listener Mike Kettner let us he was quick on his toes and sent us his Holley file. Badass. Yes, Bill, you're right about that message. That's a good idea. Tune shaming, Zoom style.
Yeah, but you're missing the part where you pay for it. This
Right.
gets into a whole other thing.
Yeah, we'll take donations. Our PayPal. What is it? There's something on the website at RealTuners.com. If you find there, I don't remember what the. Oh wait, no, it's RealTuners.com/tips. I think is what we set up. Something pretty simple, but if you want, anyway. No, but take a look at that.
If you send a tip, you'll get your file reviewed, but it can't hurt.
Yeah, right. Bribe us. Okay. Lovely. Oh, let's see here. Sorry, Jerry. We'll have to help you next time. So yeah, let's do that next week. That sounds kind of fun. What else is going on? Anybody else got anything you want to look at?
What else are we talking? Wasn't it? What do we expect from a tuner at the track? What should you expect
at the track or from a tuner in general? At a dyno situation.
No, I'm curious. I think they're talking drag racing, so Perduto is probably the guy spending the most time with.
Well, so Bill brought up, what do you expect from your tuner, and so God, this is going to get me in trouble. So I have a local competitor, and I'm not really a competitor. We're friends more than competitors, but he has a thing about you pay him to come to the track. He opens a laptop, plugs in, punches away on some keys. Okay, you're good, and walks away. That doesn't really work well for me. I'm more of a, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Here you see in the log, this is where the car wants this. So I think we should try this, and I'm going to discuss it with you as one car owner, guy spending the money / this is your $20, $50, $100, $200,000 race car sitting here. I don't know what the right answer is for that or what people expect. I've had customers that are like, hey, you do whatever you want to do. They'll just hand you a laptop and say, here you go. I trust you. That's what I'm paying you for. But I don't also feel that if you want to know what's going on with your car, a tuner should just take your money, do it, and walk away and tell you if you want to know, or I'm not going to tell you. Or there's tuners out there, I've heard, that, you pay $1,000, $2,000 to show up at a race, and they will literally delete their tune when they leave. They will leave your car with a start and run file to get itself in the trailer when they leave the day. You've paid them now however much money to come to the track. They've made your car go fast. We get to the last race of the day. They literally push delete file, load a start and run tune, and that's all you get.
Not only would I not use that guy again, but I'm going to have his whole family killed just to make the point.
But and that's, I guess I'm more asking you guys as the listeners, what are you expecting? Like, what do you feel you deserve? What do you want? Do you want to hire a tuner and just, hey, here's a laptop, you do your thing? Or do you want to be involved in the process? Do you want to know why we're making this change or what we're doing? You're paying us, as you see James getting into a car currently right now, you're paying us to perform this service. What is it you expect for that money? Scott is very good about, as he's making changes, you saw how fast he goes and we had to slow him down, but he'll tell you why he's making the changes as he's making them. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm
too
doing
fast.
This.
I'm like tuner on meth, but I don't do meth or any of those.
I think the real thing here is like, some guys, I do the same thing. Some guys go, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Do your thing.
Yep.
The biggest thing is how does your tuner interact with you? And they need to at least give you that option. And if you're asking and you're there, if they say, oh, just let me do my thing, go away, whatever, that's a red flag. But also, do they follow up with you? Do they make the change and walk away? And do you have to go find them if something doesn't work? Or do they make the change and hey, how was that? Did that work? I want feedback. I want to know if what I did worked or not, because I need to know for my own notes. And if it didn't, I obviously want to fix it. And then how do they react when things don't work?
Yes, that's the big thing. Man, it's hard. Like, I feel like if someone's just making a change and walking away, it's a blind guess. They don't want to tell you what they changed because they say, hey, in my world, I'm a drag racer. I can't put my experience on top of Brian's. Let's say I want to go put 2 or 3 degrees of timing in the car from, say, 0.2 to 0.8 to see if I can make the car 60 foot harder. But I might do that if I tell you, hey, I'm trying this and the car slows down, my bet was wrong, which is fine. I'll tell you I was wrong. But I feel like there's people out there that will do that and won't tell you why they did it because they don't want to have to admit they were wrong when they were wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just me, but on the analytical type, I want to know the what and the why and the wherefore, because I will pay more for the guy that spends the time to do that for me, because B, I'm going to be at times and at places where I'm the one that has to put the up arrow, and I want to know, have an idea what I'm doing and what I'm looking for, because you're not always going to be there. That's just how it is. There's places and times where you're not going to be there. And I decided to go to a test and tune, or I did this, or I did that, or we're out in the middle of BFE and I have no cell service, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not doing a remote then.
This is you guys' cars. You guys are the ones that are spending the money building the car. And I don't feel, this is my personal opinion, that I should be a requirement to be side by side with you at the track so you can drive and race your own race car. I love being there. Anyone that knows me knows I would rather probably be at the racetrack than just about anywhere in the world. But there's times I can't be there. Daniel Lembo's posting right now. He's one of those ones. When I first started helping Daniel, he probably didn't know what a Holley was, and he had one on his car. And he's to the point now, just as we talk about things, listening to this podcast and stuff, you can send Lembo to a racetrack and he can make 85, 90% of changes on his own. Am I quote unquote losing money because I'm teaching him to do it himself and he doesn't need to pay me anymore? Yes, but it's paid me more times than I can tell you from people he sent me stuff along those lines. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Scott does this way more for a living than I do, but that's what I expect if I was the end user paying for a tuner. Is I want you to teach me to do it, because I don't want to have to be required for you to be. I don't want to be a requirement for you to race your personal race car, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I talked again with the mic muted. I'm the same way, man. I don't want you to rely on me at the racetrack. I mean, I'll help you at the racetrack. I love doing that. We can make something happen. But I want to show you how to be able to make small timing changes and how to adjust your launch ramp and how that's going to affect how hard it hits the tire, et cetera. I like to show people that and just let them take off with it. That's the best thing. One of the best stories ever. You guys remember Robin Roberts was on the show early on, back like 100 episodes ago. His guy, Alan Bruffloat, was one of his engineers that worked for him at the company that he's the CIO or CFO of. It's a large stationary engine provider, generators and stuff for hospitals. And his guy, Alan, basically I just gave him a tutorial on using FuelTech, the power management stuff. And dude, that guy ended up they're like top 3 at all the very good finishers at the No Prep Kings events. If you follow, Robert's one of the most consistent top performers at the No Prep King shows. So anyway, it was a neat deal. Alan was the same way. He was just a really quick learner. He's like, oh, I can do this. I'm like, yeah, so this is how this works. And he handled it. And I've not had to help them with hardly anything, except now they're rewiring the car. I just got a message from Robin the other day. We might be helping them configure some stuff here lately, but they've got the car is going to, I believe, Jeff Brandenburg to get rewired. But anyway, so it was cool shit.
Those are people who follow Mega Cash Days. Those episodes have just aired, and they got deep into the program but didn't quite win with a car that was capable. So yeah.
Oh yeah, his Firebird's badass.
Yeah.
They really learned that car. I mean, they started off with just like, yeah, okay, let's just try some things, and then they got some guidance, and their shit took off, and they do that all themselves. So there's not a lot of outside consulting on that car.
FuelTech power management for the win. I have a question, Mr. Bobby Parks, since you're throwing up that FuelTech thing. This is the question I'm going to start asking every time I see a FuelTech versus a Holley battle. What does a FuelTech do a Holley doesn't? All I want to answer to you. Just answer me one question.
You want me to answer that question?
Sure.
And then the reverse. The first thing right away I think of is I'm surprised more people don't talk about it, but the built-in inertia management unit on the FuelTech will actually, when calibrated, give you chassis speed. So that's kind of like having your own VPS on board, right? You could actually put in your data log the
Oh.
velocity where you're at. It
Watch
doesn't
it.
show the distance.
Watch it.
You're gonna get somebody sued.
I was going to say that the cease and desist
Oh.
just landed.
No. I'm not getting sued for this. It's in there. It's on their firmware. It's in their public
I'm
release.
kidding.
I tested this
know.
on Rob and Robert's car. Actually, I think we talk about this, but I think we were some of the earliest in the field users that paid for it, started using it. That shit was wicked accurate, and you could actually use it as the chassis speed and not need a wheel speed sensor, front wheel speed sensor. So just a drive shaft speed sensor and the built-in IMU, and you can do some shit on the FuelTech that the Holley does not have built in, and is very hard to do with advanced tables. Like
Now
this
reverse
has
it.
similar to it's got the multi-zone layer for target drive shaft speed, but then you can also have acceleration be a variable. I mean, it's pretty badass.
Okay, now reverse it. What's a Holley do a FuelTech doesn't do?
Advanced tables, there's programmable outputs. Some of the guys struggle on the FuelTech. Like I saw Nathan Kaler with FuelTech, and I can tell there's a couple times where it's like, this is pretty easy to do on Megasquirt, and Holley. Why can't I do this here?
Calculations.
But the advanced tables are the stuff, and programmable inputs and outputs, linked PWM timers on the Holley. You can just set up an output that's a PWM. You have flashing turn signal. You can control the pulse rate and make a turn signal out of something over CAN bus if you want with Holley. Holley's CAN implementation is wildly more advanced.
Oh,
than
we
what
didn't
FuelTech
talk
has
about
at
the new
moment.
CAN IO module for the Hollies. That just
Yes,
made
Holley
every
came out with a
Terminator
new
and
CAN
HP
IO
guy.
Yeah. Same thing one of my customers is trying to develop. Similar.
Mike,
but,
can you finish that statement? Tell us what that's about.
So for the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So the big difference between a Dominator and let's say an HP before the Terminator even came out was IO. More than anything else, it was IO. Dominator seemingly has unlimited IO, as where the HP had 4 ins, 4 outs. With the new CAN module, which I think they underpriced personally at only $350, that added 8 ins and 8 outs to every Terminator or Holley HP on the market. So now you can buy a Terminator with a screen for like $1,200 retail, drop on, plug and play.
That is so sick, dude. You cannot even do that
dude.
in Megasport world now.
Add a
Not get a screen, not get a
$350
screen
IO
that has
box.
extra IOs.
Yeah.
To do that in Megasport world, you'd have to buy a wideband kit. You got to have a screen. You got to have an IO module. You got to have at least a JB Perf or another microsquirt, because the dash, you step up to the Pro Dash, you get extra IOs.
And that's
on the Holley.
So
you can make a Terminator X do some kick-ass racing.
That's
shit
for $1,500. You have a box with 12 ins, 12 outs. Now the only thing that sucks about Terminator is you're limited to high impedance injectors, but you have so much capability now. And then you can add a Pro Dash if you want, but you don't even need the Pro Dash. You can run regular old autometer gauges in this setup for $1,500.
Nathan's on here. Nathan actually said that he's right. I was used to doing stuff and had to relearn a little with FuelTech. But as I pointed out, I'm sure he's going to agree with, their tech support is badass. They'll figure it out. There's another difference with Holley. Why don't you call their tech support? Start your call now.
Hang on.
Get through by lunchtime tomorrow.
I will tell you, the last couple of weeks have been very different, and they're showing up at races. They have definitely bought race rig and race trailer, and they are starting to show some support at the racetrack now.
Maybe. Yeah, we said that with Pro Stock, and it was funny. They're like, Holley will be there. We're the one vendor. I'm like, oh, man, it would be better if we had multiple vendors. And then they went to a couple races and then stopped. We all got a letter. Here's Doug's phone. Call him on Sunday if you got a problem.
Great.
You're calling their guy, and he's at church. You're like, let me step out. I'm in church.
For those of you that follow stock markets and investments and so forth, there is an interesting battle going on right now with private equity firms acquiring companies in the aftermarket automotive space. So Stay tuned, because there's been a lot of acquisitions going on in the background, basically with the, it's, Holley Comp or Edelbrock Comp and Holley with a bunch of things. And that pace is not going to slow down. That's actually going to pick up. So we're seeing fundamental changes in what's going on with those companies, how they're managed, who runs them, who works there. So expect this stuff to change a lot over the next year or two. Just saying.
Bobby Parks is all over it. The time-based drag race features, which is what I was kind of talking about. The traction control is awesome. Easy to use, multi-zone layers for drive shaft speed. He's right. So you can have different ramp rates for taking timing in or out. Now you can do that on the Holley if you know how to work the advanced table as well. I'm able to make the dual VSS traction control on the Holley work pretty damn good. But the FuelTech, man, I made it. Their method works, and again, Robin Roberts and those guys are a great example there. Alan Bruffalo, they're really using the power management functions there to get down, because some of those tracks are great and some of them suck. So that you got to have some skill. Cool shit. What else? Other questions? More challenges? I say we remote tune one next week.
Ooh,
I think
we
that
don't. Oh,
would be
someone
awesome.
asked about the Turbinator update. God, people keep asking. I'll just take 30 seconds. We're back on the dyno April 18th. Me and Jason are going up there with our homemade ECU, the dyno, a turbine, hopefully make 5,000 horsepower, and also test water methanol injection and our controls in general. We've changed my fuel table. Check this out. Instead of my x-axis being RPM, engine RPM, we've gotten rid of that. We're using compressor discharge pressure. That it's compressor discharge pressure is our x-axis. Our y-axis is throttle position or demand. Okay, that way you can control based on how much pressure the turbine's putting out, how much fuel you can ramp in to accelerate. It should be pretty badass. We were able to get tables from the manufacturer, from Lycoming, that were reworked to match this particular engine, allegedly, of where the expected fuel flows were going to end up for a given load or demand. So trying to make it as throttle responsive as you can with a turbine. That's not easy. Sometimes you can slap the throttle and it'll take up to 10 seconds for it to get to full torque, which is, weird. And then if you let off the throttle, it takes a while for it to stop applying torque in some cases. Although with this design, not so bad. But anyway, yeah, so we should have some updates in a couple weeks, but we'll come up with something. Join the podcast fan club page if you want, and we'll post in there. We'll figure out a way to do a lottery or something. We'll do somebody a remote tune next week. I'll come up with some rules.
And we'll
What
get
else have we
James to
got?
wear a black shirt, and then we will all be fashion forward.
Right. Anything else? Oh, Holley does direct injection where FuelTech doesn't. I don't care. Someone hasn't even brought one of those things to me yet. DI, that's not selling. That's
the problem, like anything you're doing
yet? Anyone person
No.
tuned to one of those?
It's been talked
James, have
about,
you
and I've
tuned
seen
the
the guys
DI
doing
motor
it, but
on Holley's DI. James Short, he's muted. Hold on, let's unmute him. He said no.
he's shaking his head no.
No, I haven't.
He's actually
but,
making a poll.
well, I'm just driving right now, but
That's-
yeah, we're going to be testing port injection versus direct injection pretty soon. So on the same engine dyno.
Yeah.
So we'll actually
Legit.
get a good apples to apples idea if it's actually
James is-
worth it or not.
James,
How
is
many of
working
you guys have
VCR
even-
now, and he's gonna have some cool shit to talk about. Yes.
How many of you guys have even tuned a DI engine not on the factory ECU? Like I think even the number
DI
of
on
guys
a
doing.
standalone
Yeah, how many guys have tuned a DI on a standalone?
diesel. Does it count a Bosch on a diesel?
Yeah.
I've done that.
yeah,
I
but you
worked
can't.
Yeah.
Port, I guess you could port inject diesel, but
Yeah, it's similar.
Because I've done like 2, 3. I'd have to go back and look. And most
That's
guys
interesting.
really
Become
trying to
more
do anything
expensive.
crazy are putting port on them.
Yeah.
It's been talked about. We've got a C8 customer that ProCharger announced they've got their kit out, but no tuning solution. That's why I talked to him. I was like, look, we can throw port and we can dump fuel on top of it. But you literally just told me the last time you picked the car up, he's like, yeah, I'm driving out of Florida tomorrow, which is 18, 20-hour drive from where we are. So I was like, man, like, you still want to do that. I'm not just going to give you just a solution that throws some fuel at this and we piggyback it. So, yeah, I don't know how many DI guys are really going standalone, because if they're going that far, they tend to just be, screw it, I'll go port.
I think a lot of that still too is the greenness of DI, and I think that will. I personally think that. I know we've had our arguments on the show. I think personally that's going to change. I think me and
I do
James are
too.
gonna- yeah, I do see power in DI. I do see advantages in DI. I see a lot of advantages in both, especially the DI and port injection combined.
So I think the reason I've done a little bit more of it too is like Cyvex and stuff like that. They do the BMW, they do N54s, N55s, and the DI BMW engines, which you love them or hate them. Like I had a customer last Friday was like, hey, I'm going to Maine. Do you want to take my M2 competition for the weekend and just drive it so it gets some miles and we can report readiness and let me know? Literally, he bought this car, put 100 miles on it, brought it to me. We changed a couple things. Car has 6,000 miles. I was like, yeah, go drive it for the weekend.
That's my kind of guy.
I like it.
Yeah. And then I bring it back. It's like, hey, oh, you ride. Let's go ride. He's like, he's actually a really good customer. But those cars, when guys do race cars on those, they're just, a lot of times we strip them out. But it's in some cases it's hard to do port injection on these because the engine designs are so different. That they're standalones that do the DI on them, and it does work. I mean, we make good power. I think we made 400 something horsepower on pump gas out of this.
That reminded me
M2?
of when Tom McGilton, if you know him from Drag Week and from Rocky Mountain Race Week, with the white 2015 ZL1 Camaro. He literally bought it at a dealership in Kansas City and drove it over to Larry Larson's shop. It had like 13 miles on it, and they started cutting on that car right away. Literally cutting the front end off that thing. I'm like, holy shit, it was funny.
But everything in the interior still works, including the power seats.
Oh, so even the remote start worked, and Larry made us disable that because he just didn't feel it was safe around the racetrack. But literally, I had the remote start working. The OnStar worked. The dash worked. I've told that story before on here, but that car's badass. Still,
I like this guy's name on YouTube, El Muchacho.
He's actually a local guy out to us. He's been to A's a couple times.
The 911 R8 Huracan guys are all going standalone.
Yeah. It's happening more and more. We actually sorry,
wife is interested in a Porsche Boxster, like an older Porsche Boxster.
What gen?
She likes the 98. What is that? Which generation is that? Second gen?
Second. Yeah, I forget.
One there that was the 98 into 2000 range. I think it was. I thought that, I don't know, the 980s. What is it? What chassis is that?
That was the secretary's Porsche. Am I allowed to say that?
You can go ahead. She was thinking like Miata or something like that, or like, what about an old, like a Z8 or something we can take care of, fix up, whatever. But I don't even know shit about those little cars. I know the Miatas are really well supported, but she was asking about it. She's like, oh, look at this Porsche Boxster. I'm like, okay.
That
I read some of the Consumer Report stuff, and actually they're really good cars, apparently, for the most part.
To El Muchacho's point, when we say that a 911, whichever 911 that is, or an R8 or a Huracan Lamborghini are DI, are they also blended DI and port? Or
some of them are, yeah. A lot of them, if they put a standalone, they'll do
most of when they're doing standalone. I'm not sure. Most of those are DI now, straight DI, no port. You know, some of the stuff, the FRS, GT86, whatever, were blended. All of the Porsche stuff recently has all been straight DI that I know of. Same on the R8.
Yeah, sorry, my dogs have run out of patience with me, so I had to mute. But thank you, Brian, because I had no idea.
Nathan, that MSD box is going to hang on Ryan's wall for a while.
Yeah, I don't fuck with MSD boxes. It's mainly here to remind me to yell at these guys when they try to buy this shit.
Looks like it's quieting down. Guys, about ready to wrap it up. I got to give Jason the sign. I think going once, going twice. So
our next show, we're going to have live looks at tunes and a real-time remote tunes.
Yeah,
what we're doing.
Like we're planning that real live right now instead of talking about how we're going to do that offline. But I'll put something up in the podcast fan page. We'll figure out a little way to decide who we're going to do a remote with. We kind of want to pick the right guy. I want to pick somebody that we need to work on startup and idle and throttle response. That would be a really good one to do live in real time. That's ballsy, but I would do it. And then I would like at some point to have someone with a HalTech and or FuelTech calibrations they want to send in. We could go through those. I'd like to, it'd be neat to see what Brian thinks on some of those. He's always got a unique perspective. I wouldn't mind seeing Perduto go through a drag Holley tune up and see what he thinks, but have him do it. But anyway,
I have a couple. Name one.
As long as there are people whose shit won't just break right in the middle of it or have all those mechanical issues. So going back to our early conversation about tuners qualifying their customers, just saying.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right, Jason, take us out of here, man. So that was kind of fun. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. Went almost our 2 full hours. Dan Parker coming up the end of the month. He's going to take another run at the Arkansas Mile here at the last weekend of April. If you're anywhere near Blytheville, Arkansas, you should come out and check that out. It's a neat spectator event at the East Coast Timing Association Arkansas Mile. A lot of us from RealTuners are going to be there. Dahlquist, Evans, I'll be there. James may end up showing up. If not, he's going to help him the team on that car. But that should be a neat effort with Team RealTuners. Yeah, like I said, look in the podcast fan page. We're going to figure out a way that somebody will do remote tune real time. And I kind of like doing that stuff. People can figure it out again. In the meantime, everybody take care and have a good week. And we will definitely see you guys next week. Peace out.